Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. In case you have never joined a webinar with us, welcome. We do have a Q&A section where you're able to ask questions if needed. And then we do currently have a poll open that is just going to ask you some information in regards to your role. And if you've ever used Northspire before, it's just a great check for us to see how most of our users are interacting with the platform and the webinars. No pressure, and we won't contact you after this, I promise, unless you would like to talk more to us. During today's call, we do have a Q&A section where you're able to ask questions, whether it's your first time using Northspire, it's your 100th time logging in. Make sure to get those passwords out and ready, and we can follow along, or feel free to follow the recording at a later point. This will be sent to you as a recording as well. If you missed yesterday's session, this Northspire 101 has actually been broken up into two parts. So yesterday we kind of went over the basic navigation and the use of the portfolio manager and the project dashboard page. And today we're going to be diving into the anticipated cost report and data inbox. So really how to manage your budget, and then how to get information approved and flowing into your budget for confirmation. And without further ado, let's dive in. So welcome to everybody here. Thank you for joining today's session. As I mentioned earlier, there's a poll open in case you have a second to answer our questions. Really just want to know what department you work with, and then how long you've been with Northspire. Just trying to gauge who our attendees are. And then, as mentioned, we do have a Q&A available for you today. My name is Kato Palco, and I'm a real estate transformation consultant here at Northspire. So my goal is to help clients like yourselves utilize the platform to their most advantage, not only creating visibility, but transforming the way you guys work on your projects and build the buildings we see every day. Before this, I come from a background in real estate as well as just technology. I worked with a project management firm, and then I did some property management as well, and ended up also working for another SaaS company that focuses on landlords' return or ROI in regards to their sourcing and tools. So I've been around the block for real estate and excited to be here at Northspire now almost a year. So as I mentioned, this is part 2 of Northspire 101's course, getting you set up. Before we dive into today's session, I do want to just call out that we do have some options for you in case you ever have questions and maybe you don't have time to sit through a full webinar. You are able to reach out to your personalized support, which is your real estate transformation consultant, or RETC for short. Our goal is really just to help all of our clients ensure that they are able to use our tool correctly. If there's any issues, we'll connect you with the right people. Speaking of which, if you're not able to reach us during business hours, you do have the option to reach out to two other sources, one being the Concierge Help Desk. They are available via blue bubble on the right-hand side of your screen on northspire.com, or you're able to email them at concierge@northspire.com. They average about a 5-minute return email or chat bubble, so easy peasy. And they are available a little bit longer than we are, so they're available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. East Central. So whether you're East Central or if you're West Coast, you obviously have a little bit different hours, but as long as they fall into those parameters, you should be good to go. And then last but not least, we do have a knowledge base or a fast self-service answer system called knowledge.northspire.com. It has 350 articles and counting. Essentially, if you can think of a certain subject that you're looking at and want more information on, you type that right in. It could be sources, it could be cash flow. It'll pull up a lot of articles that are concerning that information and that we typically see from clients. So without further ado, be sure to check those out in your own time, but let's focus on today's training. For today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at the anticipated cost report, or where your budget is stored. We're going to look at managing your project budget transactions, making changes, as well as creating exposures, or as we call them exposures, but you might call them proposals or estimates. We're also going to take a look at the data inbox, how we get information into your system with approved costs, looking at some advanced features there. And then I'm going to set you guys up for your next session, which is going to be creating a draw. So as we kind of talk about this past week has been a kind of bit of a runaround of like getting started at Northspire, how to set up your information. We're going to have a little bit of a pause in these sessions. And next week, we're going to be launching our new Q2 updates. So definitely check those out. We're very excited to show you our new project abilities and just the options you guys have. Specifically, if you are also in affordable housing, there are some really great features for you. And then we're going to pick up these sessions one more time. So in case you have to jump off early or you missed the first one yesterday, we're going to be repeating those on the 13th as well as the 18th. And then my good coworker, RATC Joe, is going to be jumping in for producing a world-class draw package, which is a great supplementary class for you guys if you have not yet taken it, followed by a bunch of other classes you're more than welcome to chill into. All right, without further ado, though, let's jump in. Feel free to follow along if you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and just pull up a typical demo environment for us. And if you joined yesterday's session, you may notice that we are starting at the project dashboard page, which is your real-time window into what's happening across your project. And this is really where we're going to begin today. As I mentioned in our last session, we are going to start first at the navigation bar up here. There are tons of tools and features you can review, but we're going to focus on first the anticipated cost report. This is, as you can assume, where we save all of our budgetary needs. I'm going to go through first the top dashboard and then just really dive into the budget piece. But the anticipated cost report is really a real-time collaborative workspace where you can view, forecast, and project budgets and costs. Think of it as a health score for your project finances, really to alert you and your team at any risks or opportunities you may have. So just overall, a great place to start no matter what project you're looking at in the system, and a really great overview of how to advance your project forward. As typically, we do have a little bit of a dashboard for you guys, and there are a few things that are really helpful on this page. First and foremost, it's just good to note that this page has some sticky features, meaning that if I want to select something, it is actually going to stick to the next time I come back to this page. And also it is per user. So as an organization, you are able to select what things or columns you want on, or maybe what features you want on. But I do recommend that if you're in a particular role that looks at certain information, to also select what's right for you. A great example of this might be the fact that at the dashboard here, we have a few graphs. First being that we do have the ability to see net available funds, as well as your variance. And that first sticky feature is going to be the offset by contingency. This is something that's going to show you with your remaining contingency, can you cover your variance? The variance is going to be in this amber color up top, but you can also find where the variance lies by following down to the bottom here and looking at their color coding of any of the squares below. So you may notice under hard cost and soft cost here, I have 16 red flags or warnings, and then just one here for hard costs. These are both going to be identifiers to allow you to understand where those variances are living. And again, the green, as you can see for the net available funds, it's a green light. It's good, obviously. You're going to see where we have available funds as well. So everything in Northspire is pretty color-coded, pretty easy to follow. And similarly here on the right-hand side, you may notice that we do have an offset by contingency here. And you can see that we can also see the contingency originals versus the remaining. The goal here is to show you guys how much you have left and how much you've spent, and to give you a breakdown as well of the different contingencies if you have those. All right. Other than that, you can always see where your completion of your project stands. And then you also can see your cost per unit. Now, if you have multiple units filled in, you do have the option to change this to, for instance, residential units or rentable square footage. And to see those changes and to be able to select multiple units, you can make those updates under Power Tools, Project Information. This is really going to be the page that allows you to set a lot of those key essential items that help you progress your project. Going over also this information, the last thing here, the total anticipated cost. This is really meant to show you your worst case scenario in regards to spend. We're going to cover a little bit of that down here below, so I won't dive too much into that. But if you're ever curious about any of the information, there are little eye icons or informational icons that can help you understand how that cost is calculated. All right, let's get down here to the budgetary section. So in case you didn't know, Northspire works on a 3-tier system we have our top category, our subcategory, and then our budget line. So first and foremost, you may notice that I have the budget currently rolled up. So it's actually going to show me just the top categories. So we have acquisition costs, hard costs, soft costs, and allowance, as well as a grand total with and without the remaining contingency offset. So you're able to see the values here on both regards to see what's going to be your worst case scenario. Now, to expand, you have a few options. I see some users really like to just expand one section to the subcategory and then the budget line view and leave the rest of their budget closed. Or you can also use this icon to the left that allows you to compress the entire budget or expand it completely. This is a great way to keep kind of only the information you want to see open and allows you a little more flexibility in the tool. Outside of the flexibility of visibility, we do have the option to have some other edits to the table here. Although the formatting stays the same, so you can't rearrange the columns. They are pretty selected on kind of budget commitments, anticipated costs spent, and progress. You do have some flexibility in how you want to utilize the columns below that. One is you can always actually review the value here by just scrolling over each column here, but you also can make some edits under table options. Here you'll note that I first have the option to add and remove columns. Typically when you sign up with us and you have a project in mind, you'll see that these are the typical columns you can note here, but there are some other changes like total commitments, pending changes, and a few other costs and exposure items you can select. And as I mentioned at the beginning, whatever you choose, that is how it's going to be directly explained and showed only for your view. So definitely make sure that if you're looking at, total commitment as a column, that if your other coworker or your other project manager isn't, they may have seen different values and I may not understand maybe the variance values at some point. You also are able to click them on all and on off at your point, but feel free to utilize what's been defaulted as well. Some other quick notes in regards to ACR or the anticipated cost report is we have the option to show cents. This is particularly helpful. I have had some customers who don't have this toggled on and they have a variance of 0. They email me and they say, hey, Kate, like, why is there no variance, but it has a red icon? Can't figure it out. It's possible you owe like 45 cents somewhere. So just make sure that you have that turned on in case you have some confusion. And it's just a good way to keep things in mind. We also have the option to do the subtotal of rows, pending transactions, so anything that hasn't been approved yet in the data inbox, which we'll go over next. Unused budget lines hides any budget lines that have never been touched, so if they have 0 values all the way across, they're not going to be able to show. And then you have the option, if you do have an accounting integration, to see accounting cost codes as well. It'll pop up on the left-hand side here, and because we're not integrated on this project and it's a demo site, it'll say none, but if you have MRI, Yardi, Sage Intacct, Sage, there's just so many of them, honestly, now, but definitely check with your RETC to find out what options we have. And then last but not least on this page is we do have the option for all vendors. This is going to be able to expand a row if there are multiple vendors on a budget line, so you can see all the details. Otherwise, it'll just have a +3 icon like this, and you can hover over it for more information. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this page, just given time, but I do want to make sure I give you guys enough information. A lot of this is broken up really simply to follow along like any other software or any other budget that you may be working with. We have all of our budgetary needs on the left-hand side here, original, approved changes, and reallocations. Really, the only difference between approved changes and reallocations that I typically see is that you do have the option to essentially select whether it's a net 0 change with reallocations or if it's an addition or subtraction of your total approved cost within the approved changes. Those numbers add up for the total revised. We then look at the option of your commitment. So your total commitments is equal to your base contracts plus your change orders. And then with that cost in mind, we also do track, as I mentioned, your estimates or your proposed costs. The goal here is to really be futuristically thinking about what you potentially could be spending, even if it's above your budgetary needs, and have an understanding of how that's reflected. So just looking at my budget here overall, it looks like, for instance, I have a bit of a variance under my GMP line, and then looking at the information, it looks like I do have some additional exposures that have been added in that have made it added to the cost that is not going to be able to cover my total revised budget here. So overall, it's just a great way to kind of start looking at your variance, see how that attracts, and then understand what potentially could be influencing my budget that might need me to either reallocate funds or have approved changes. Within the ACR, you do have the option to also click into any of the blue numbers. Anytime you see blue on the screen like this, you can click into that value. It's going to pull up all of the transactions within that section. Here, looking at the total GMP invoice, I could take a look at a particular approved invoice. That'll take me to the invoice to the left here, the documentation, and then all of the information that was done within the data inbox. Under payment details, if you have an integration that's two-way, it will show check information. It's updated typically once a day, so you're able to see that information. And then if you were in a part of an approval workflow or a comment, you'll see that information there as well. You can always close out and go back to this page and make any changes in adding transactions also from this page. So as you can see, I can click on exposure here, add new, and have the option not only to track an estimate, but also a proposed. So you're actually tracking the full life cycle of an item. Other than that, we do have the option to also build out a construction payment tracker on the ACR, which we have a whole other webinar just for this. But you'll see that we can actually get just from one GMP line, a breakdown of all scope of work and understand not only the stored costs, period, total retainage, and balance to finish, and keep track of that for every single pay app. Moving ahead, I just want to show you guys also before we head out here today, the option of utilizing the data inbox. So how does all this information get on this page? Well, all your commitments and your spent or your invoice to date comes from your data inbox, which is just going to be up top here, data inbox. This is the tool that revolutionized, I think, Northspire in general for me. The great thing about this feature is that it uses a web email browser name. So you'll find that email under this gear icon. And you're able to copy this information to either your vendors or your own email and send as many PDF documents in one attachment all at once. This allowing you to have our team of Northspire employees as well as AI system not only read all of your invoices, but actually input all the necessary information. Just selecting one of the options here, you'll see that my invoice to the left is recorded as it was sent in. And then on the right-hand side, I have all my invoice details filled in by the Northspire team, which is a great way not to have to sit there and manually enter the work. For each component, also, we do offer the option to add in at least one invoice component, which shows the value of that invoice. It has the option and it reflects correctly based on the vendor listed here, but all these items are adjustable by clicking the add or edit component. Within this tool, you're able to not only add and edit maybe what budget line you want this invoice reflected on, but there are a lot of really great new features that are available. For one thing, if you want to pair it to a contract and you have a contract that you're watching really carefully across, maybe you have an architectural contract that has SDs, CDs, etc., and you want to pair this invoice to a particular component, you are able to do so within our system and understand the percentage complete. You also, part of our new beta feature that's coming out soon is going to be able to track each invoice also on a funding level. So anybody in affordable housing or anyone who's looking to be more particular about how their projects are funded, you do have the option to select a funding source and actually have that information be part of your system as well. This tool really allows you to make this environment super easy to follow and have the ease of all your information all in one place. We also offer something called Copilot Analytics, which allows you to keep track of your budget and your contract to date. So you'll notice here that it does give you a warning if something needs to be adjusted. Looks like for us, the budget impact looks good. We're actually going to fulfill this budget line 100% by approving this invoice. But our vendor impact is going to show that we're going to be actually over the budgeted, or I should say the contracted amount, giving us the option to add a commitment to add more value to our project. Once you review all the information here, you do have the option to set up a workflow as always, any product or feature that includes invoicing. Have the option to comment, review the overview information, and then click Accept Invoice. And after that, you can go back to anticipated cost report and make sure that information is good to go, your variances are zeroed out, and you have a really good perspective of all your information all in one place. Some things to keep in mind as we're closing out this webinar that's short and sweet is that we do offer other trainings, and your RETCs are a great option to keep track of how you want to utilize your tools. But I definitely recommend trying the exposure feature. maybe talking to your team about approval workflows in the data inbox, and deciding if you want to maybe connect some contracts to your invoices to be a little bit more particular about how you cover your cost. I really appreciate your time today, everybody, and thank you so much for spending this 20 minutes with me. As always, we'll have a repeat of this session, additional sessions to follow, but feel free to reach out any follow-up questions. I don't see anything open right now, but I'll be around if you need anything else, and feel free to talk to your RHC. Have a great day and see you guys soon for a new webinar information.